Hi guys, I'm Jessie of Crochet by Jessie. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be something a little bit different. Today we are doing a lesson in crochet colour theory. You may be going, Jessie, what the heck is crochet colour theory? And I promise that I do actually have an explanation. When I'm talking about crochet colour theory, I'm going to be talking about the use of colour theory in your crochet projects just to maximise the results for your colour palettes. So let's go through all of the crochet colour theory points that I have used myself and that I plan to use in the future. So now that you know what this video is going to be about, let's get into it. Today we're going to be talking about colour wheels, and specifically I'm going to keep this chart up here for the majority of the video as often as I can. We're going to be talking about primary colours, secondary colours, and which combinations are best for certain results. So first of all, we have three primary colours. Hopefully you guys know the basics of that, but the primary colours are red, blue, and yellow. So you'll notice that they are in each separate part of the circle. They are far away from each other because they are the absolute opposites really when it comes to colour. On the rest of the colour wheel, you will start to notice the colours that are on either side of the primary colours. These are known as secondary colours. So secondary colours are a combination of the primary colours that you get together to create a different colour. So for example, when you have red and blue together, you end up with purple. So purple is a secondary colour. As well as that, when you have blue and yellow together, then you end up with green. So green is another secondary colour. So bear that in mind. So we have the three primary colours, and then you have the secondary colours that branch out when you combine them. With all of that in mind, the first thing I'm going to be talking about is complementary colours. When I am talking about complementary colours, it is a specific term. I have not come up with it myself. It is not crochet related. It is just based on colour palettes universally. And complementary colours are colours that when put together, they do very much complement each other. So now that we understand that complementary colours are meant to obviously complement each other, bring out the best and the most vibrancy of each colour, you're going to be thinking, how do I detect, how do I realise what is a complementary colour? So the first thing you need to do is you need to have a look at the colour wheel again. You guys are going to notice that you have colours that are on the opposite end of the colour wheel. So they are facing each other but just far apart. That is important. You need to take note of that because that is how you find a complementary colour. So take note of the wheel again. It's really important just to look at the placement of the colour on the wheel. What you're going to be looking at is you'll be having a look at, let's say, colours on two other sides of the wheel. They're completely opposite, but they are not connecting. When you have those two colours together, they are a complementary colour for each other. So being a little bit more specific over complementary colours in general. So purple and yellow are complementary colours because they're on the opposite end of the colour table. Then you have blue and orange. You'll also have green and red. So those are the kind of colours that when put together, they're going to pop out the most. So when you want to do colours that have a really obvious contrast and brings out just the vibrancy overall of both of them, then putting complementary colours together is a really, really great way of achieving that finished result. Giving you guys a specific example, this project that I'm currently working on, whilst it wasn't necessarily intentional at the time, I did realise that I was kind of subconsciously putting a lot of complementary colours together, which I just found quite cool because at the time I was trying to go for a result that would have like the biggest colour pop, the most vibrancy. And yeah, I started to do it without even realising. So it really works. And it's one of those things where I've even proven it to myself. You can kind of do it without even realising. So if you're starting to do it intentionally, it might just be something that you pick up as a skill that you don't even need to think about that much in the future. So if you are a really bright, vibrant crocheter, or you're someone who, kind of like me, doesn't tend to go for some crazy colour palettes, but you want to go a little bit out of the box, but you don't know how to, looking at complementary colours is a really good way to start this. So now that we have spoken about complementary colours, I'm going to kind of do another example, which I'm going to call consistent colours, and that's not a specific term that people use for it. That's just kind of how I have grown to understand it, and you guys will get what I mean in a second. When I'm talking about consistent colours, I'm referring to colours that are consistently very close together when it comes to the colour wheel. So for example, I would say that this project that I have done here, it is of a consistent colour palette because it's got the same kind of undertones, and although it's got different shades, the tone overall is very, very consistent. That was done intentionally because I wanted a more subtle result overall. So I think if you've got consistent colours or colours of the same kind of tone, if you want to use that as a different phrase, then you are going to end up with more subtle projects that are still lovely and amazing themselves, but they're not necessarily quite as vibrant and with as much oomph as contrasting colour palettes. I think it's really important to be able to know how to utilize both consistent colors and contrasting colors, because you can really do so much with your color palettes with your projects, and it's such an easy tool, but once you've learned that it is a thing, then there's so much you can do with it. So I was obviously just talking about consistent color palettes, but looking at complementary, I would say, although it was a little bit unintentional again, the aspects of this blanket are kind of starting to bring in some of those ideas that I was saying about having the complementary colors against each other. It's not happened completely, but because I've been choosing lots of colors, like let's say we've got the orange here, and although it's not necessarily as bright or deep of a blue, we've still got a bluey hue in this centerpiece here. So because of that, the color pops in that section especially. So yeah, even if you want to do some complementary colors, but you don't want to do it throughout the entirety of your project, you could literally have a fairly plain background or a fairly few muted colors, and then you could have two complementary colors just throughout, and I feel like that would give it such an amazing kick in color, but without it being so overpowering that it's there throughout the entirety of your project. By having these tools already at your disposal, you're going to be able to figure out what kind of color palette you want based on what kind of result you want with your finished piece. Because I know a lot of people may be thinking to themselves, oh, I really want a vibrant piece. And then after you've put it all together and you've made it, you're not really feeling that vibrancy, and you're not really feeling like it's got that kick and that oomph that I keep talking about. So being able to plan out your color palette and specifically knowing which ones are complementary colors and which ones aren't, it gives you an idea on what colors maybe to avoid adding into a project, because it might just make the whole thing kind of blend together instead of popping out especially. As well as that, if you want to have a more subtle and consistent color palette, then it also gives you ideas of what to do if you want it to be more subtle, because you may think, oh, one of these colors won't be emphasized that much if you put it in it. And the next thing you know, it's the star of the show, your project doesn't feel balanced and you're not happy with the result. So this is how to avoid that. I'm very aware this video has been very brief, just giving you guys the basics of what complementary and consistent colors are and how to use them in your color palettes. If you want to have a more in-depth and thorough version of this video, then do let me know in the comments below. I will very happily show you swatches, examples, absolutely everything related to this video, just with more depth and more examples. But I hope you guys have found this video somewhat useful and that you've got a bit of inspiration and more of an idea how to tackle your next project. And as always, if you found my video and you have enjoyed it, but you're not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing as well as pressing the bell to be notified when my next video is up. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.